What's going on? It is 8 o'clock on the East Coast, and we are live on Friday nights with the Fantasy Football Stock Report, your preview for Week 6. Spike Dash here with you with the fellow co-host, Apple Dash, a.k.a. Nate Henninger. We are here to break down the games and get you a W here in week number 6. Us right now in terms of our team, still looking very good. 4 straight wins now for us. First place in our division. And right now, as of this moment, we have a guaranteed win in our pocket right now because our opponent has an illegal lineup. Dun, dun, dun!
Illegal roster, really.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Because in CBS leagues, you cannot have more than 5 reserves on your bench. And right now, our opponent has 6. So, but
you're right at the cusp.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Did you notice also what I put on the board?
Huh.
I even put our scout team up there.
Okay.
So the guys that were scouting, just in case. So I also put that on the board. So you can see who's on our scout team too. But speaking of I have to open with this before we really get into the meat of the games and talk about Thursday night last night as well. Speaking of reserves and players in our league, I want to start with a kind of maybe new segment. This might be a one-off. This might be might be continuous. I don't know. But a little thing called "Don't Be a Moron." Okay, don't be a moron, because this goes out to Finns in our fantasy league, who is 0-5 right now, but has a very illegal lineup with 8 reserves, 14 players, yes, but 8 of them reserves, including 6 running backs and a wide receiver that could be startable for any other team right now. This guy is clearly hoarding these players for trade bait because he's asking people, does anyone want to trade with me? When he has no tight end, no kicker, and no defense. I understand you're 0-5. I understand you're desperate. I understand.
Well, without a kicker, a defense, or a tight end, because you're hoarding all these players, yeah, that's going to happen.
You're taking your season, basically. You're taking a guaranteed loss by doing this. Don't be this guy. Don't be a fantasy moron.
Idiot.
Don't do it. That's stupid.
When do we play him?
I think it's later on in the season. I think it's like around the week, like 9, 10 area, something like that. But
10.
But yeah, something. But yeah, but don't do that. Don't, you can find players off waivers still to at least make an effort to impact your season. If you've lost players due to injury, we say it on here all the time. Even if you lost players due to injury, you can find plenty of good players on waivers. Don't be that guy by hoarding people and ruining it for everybody else. Don't be a moron. I had to put that out there. Don't be that moron.
You should message him and be like, I'm going to kick you out if you keep doing that.
Well, we don't have the power to do that. We don't. CBS Sports does. We don't.
Well, then tell this idiot.
Well, I've tweeted about it. I've tweeted about it. I've posted about it.
Tell this idiot that we're going to petition for him to be kicked.
Yeah, right? Stupid.
Get a hold of CBS, be like, we want him removed.
No, I even screenshotted his roster. I screenshotted his roster, posted to Twitter. I said, "This is illegal. This is unsportsmanlike. This should not be tolerated. He's hoarding players."
Who did you tweet
for
that?
Trade bait? I just posted. I just responded to my post to Jamie. I posted it there, and
yeah.
So hopefully someone at CBS sees it because that's kind of ridiculous. You know? So. Anyway, for those of you who are not being like that guy and actually playing fantasy the right way, we are here to help you get a win in Week 6. Talk a little bit briefly about Thursday night last night. For the most part, Eagles, very, very good. Giants, not so much, except for Saquon Barkley, who once again absolutely killed it. 28 fantasy points in a CBS league. 130 rush yards, almost 100 receiving yards, and a ridiculous 50-yard touchdown. I mean, he just keeps doing it every single week. And he's become a lock, forget it, RB1 every single week. Absolutely killing it. The Eagles look good. Carson Wentz had a big game. Alshon Jeffrey had a big game back. The running back situation with Corey Clement, Wendell Smallwood. Smallwood was supposed to get most of the work. He got most of the touches, but Clement actually had the receiving touchdown. So that was a variation difference. But both backs are still usable. Zach Ertz had a nice game. I think he found the end zone. So a lot of good things going forward for the Eagles. Giants got to worry a little bit, except for Saquon. Eli, not recommended going forward. Even Odell Beckham. They were talking this morning on Speak for Yourself with Jason Whitlock and Marcellus Wiley how Odell Beckham has become T.O. 2.0.
Odell Beckham's a little prick.
I mean, the drama is just getting just to a ridiculous level. I mean, he walks off the field at halftime with 2 seconds left in the first half. You know, he goes to the locker room. He then throws tantrums on the sideline. He's headbutting a fan. He's headbutting the big giant cooling fan, you know, at one point in this game. And it's like, Odell, what are you doing? Fined. He's already been fined for his comments to ESPN in that interview. And it's like, I understand, Giants, you gave him this massive contract, but if he's not going to come through for you,
give him his guaranteed money and say bye-bye.
But it's like, but then it boils down to is that Odell's fault or is it Eli's fault for not getting him the ball? You know.
Well, even when he gets the ball, he's dancing around, trying to go to the side rather than going forward.
True.
I saw a couple that
just
too much of a dancer.
Yeah, just get. And sometimes that does work. I mean, Barkley makes that work. I mean, I don't know if you saw that 9-yard gain that he had. That was like ridiculous, where he's leapfrogging, hurtling over people.
Yes.
I mean, where he hurdled. Was it Malcolm Jenkins? Yeah, he hurdled Jenkins on that 9-yard run, and it's like, get off me, you know.
Spun out of one tackle.
See, Barkley can do that. Beckham,
not so much.
So yeah. So Giants going forward really rough. Eagles though looking much better than what they did a couple weeks ago, with Wentz now back under center, looking really, really solid.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so who are you not going to have this week for your fantasy lineups? Who are you not going to have? 2 teams on bye this week. That's the Lions and the Saints. So a lot of big names are not going to be in fantasy lineups this week. And also that impacts us because we have 2 big-name Saints on a roster, and we're not going to have them this week. So we had to scramble to find guys off waivers to fill those spots, which thankfully we did. But you're not going to have Matthew Stafford or Drew Brees at quarterback. We talked about in the special, coming off his big record-setting week. Kerryon Johnson, the running back who's doing nice things in Detroit. Theo Riddick, the PPR third down back. Mark Ingram, who killed it in his first game back. Not going to have him this week. Or Alvin Kamara, the other weapon there. The receiving core for Detroit, Golden Tate, Kenny Golladay, Marvin Jones. Not going to have those guys. Same with the Saints. And Michael Thomas, the top option there. Ted Ginn, more solid in PPR than anything, but still a great deep ball threat. Not going to have him this week. Or the Saints tight end, Ben Watson, who's been doing some nice things. So all those guys are off your radar this week. So you got to keep them on the bench this week. And then once they're off, you'll have them for the rest of the season to do great things for your league. So, but for this week, got to keep them reserved. So who is going to come through this week? Who's going to be the players you want to start and shine, or those you want to worry about a little bit? Well, let's dive right in to the Sunday games, the 1 o'clock kicks. We're going to kick it off right away with what I think is going to be the fantasy jackpot of the week. That is Tampa Bay and Atlanta. Now, record-wise, of course, these teams aren't very great. Tampa's at 2-2, struggling, scrapping in the NFC South. Atlanta at the bottom of the division at 1-4. But that's the thing. Both these defenses are among the bottom half, worst in the league. They're giving up a lot, especially through the air. Your studs should take advantage of this game as a result. Both quarterbacks, yes, you betcha. Wide receivers, absolutely. Tight ends, yep. Only thing I worry about, though, is the running backs in this game. Devontae Freeman, with that knee injury, he may still not be available this week. And Tampa's running back situation between Peyton Barber and Ronald Jones, still kind of a bit of a mystery, trying to see how that plays out. Jones was active for the first time last week and actually did some really nice things in garbage time. But it remains to be seen who's going to be the starter going forward. So that is still a big mystery. But there's a lot of obvious starts you can play in this game. For the Bucs, I think any of their passing weapons here, like Mike Evans, of course, the top option, Deshaun Jackson, the deep ball threat, Cameron Brate, the tight end, who has a very nice rapport with Jameis Winston over the years. I think you can definitely have all those guys in your lineup and reap the rewards. For the Falcons, Matt Ryan, of course, is an obvious start here against this horrible Bucs secondary. Julio Jones, even though Julio Jones still has not yet – he's yet to score a touchdown this season, but you know he gets enough targets and attention from Matt Ryan. You put him in your lineup every single week, even when he didn't find the end zone. Tevin Coleman will be the top running back again this week. Freeman likely will not play because of this knee issue, so Tevin Coleman's going to get the bulk of the work again. He's a must start. Ito Smith will be the third down back again. More so a better play in PPR leagues because of those receptions, but he's still going to – but he actually had a touchdown last week, so he's still going to get some solid work here. Calvin Ridley, who's looked good the past couple weeks as well, the rookie out of Alabama, and Austin Hooper, the tight end, who also has been frequently targeted by Matt Ryan this season. A couple more starts, though, I like. Of course, I mentioned Jameis Winston. I mean, first game back now as the full-time starter, and he could not ask for a better matchup. This Falcons secondary, I mentioned before the show, has lost 3 starters this year due to injuries for the season. So they have really a skeleton crew, and it is going to be very, very difficult going forward. So Winston is one of the better receiving core in the league. He should thrive here. I think he's projected like the number 4 quarterback overall this week on CBS Sports. So, yeah, so they are expecting big things from him. So a QB1 and also a great schedule going forward as well. I don't think he faces a top 10 matchup. I don't think either at all or just one time this season. So if you can snag him off waivers like we did, get him now because he's going to be – he even put up great stuff. He was great toward the end of last season. He was great in the preseason. So get him now if you still can. Great schedule going forward. Wide receiver that I also mentioned, though, is Chris Godwin for the Bucs. Should be a strong wide receiver 3 choice. If you need wideout help or need help in the bye weeks, Godwin could be a very nice option for you in this game. And I also mentioned for the Falcons, Mohamed Sanu. No longer, by the way, on the injury report. Was dealing with a bit of a hip issue, but no longer listed as that. He is cleared to play this week. And Matt Ryan's going to have to throw to make up for that Falcons defense. He's going to have to keep up in this game. And it's been Ridley and Sanu, who Sanu has had a touchdown in 3 straight weeks, so double-digit fantasy points in 3 straight weeks. And he's going to reap the rewards of that. To me, a solid wide receiver 3 as they come, but has wide receiver 2 upside if this volume continues. You just roll him out. Go with Sanu. He's your guy. We're going to start him this week. So get him in your lineup and reap those rewards. So, again, I mentioned the sit. Devontae Freeman, again, looking more and more likely he will be out again with this knee issue. So he'll likely be out. If he does go, him and Tevin Coleman still, though, are must starts as long as he plays. Then Smith will take more of a back seat. But to me, it's a little more likely Freeman's not going to play, so keep him reserved. And I mentioned the Bucs running backs. Until Ronald Jones gets the starting job, until he grabs hold of it, you really can't trust Peyton Barber. He was very rough. He's been rough all season. He hasn't panned out. We stashed him now long-term to see if that works. So if you have room on your bench to do it, stash Ronald Jones right now. I think long-term he could really be a lottery ticket. So I really, really think that. So to me, that's a fantasy jackpot. You're going to start most of your studs that game. Pittsburgh is at Cincinnati for a 1 o'clock game. It is always a battle when these 2 NFC North rivals get together with each other. But here's the thing. Cincinnati's sitting at 4-1. And if they want to prove that they're legit this year, Andy Dalton and company have to beat the Steelers, especially in front of the home crowd. And with this Steelers defense struggling as much as it has this year, the orange and black, they got to take advantage of that. They got to take advantage of it and make a lot of plays. But don't think it's going to be a cakewalk because the Steelers offense, with all the talent they have, Big Ben Roethlisberger has plenty of weapons at his disposal as well. So they need to jump on that as well. So obvious starts here for the Steelers. Of course, Ben Roethlisberger. Obviously, you want him in your lineup anytime. with the weapons he has. James Conner still at running back. Again, as long as Le'Veon Bell keeps holding out, as long as he doesn't return to the team, you keep rolling with James Conner as your guy. Of course, the receivers, Antonio Brown and Juju Smith-Schuster as well. For the Bengals, it's your main weapons here as well, too. Andy Dalton, of course, especially in this plus matchup. Joe Mixon is back to full health at running back, so you keep rolling him out here. And their top 2 wide receivers of A.J. Green and Tyler Boyd, who has done very, very nicely this year. There's really no one else fantasy relevant of note in that game that you can really consider. I don't like the tight ends. I mean, I don't like, Ozoma, the backup for Cincinnati, now Eifert's out for the year, or Vance McDonald or Jesse James. They're too inconsistent for me. So really no one else to consider in that game. You're starting your main players you rely on from Pittsburgh or Cincinnati. The Chargers are at Cleveland for a 1 o'clock kick. And speaking of finding out whether a team is for real or not, do we really start taking Baker Mayfield and the Cleveland Browns seriously? I mean, this is huge. I mean, they won 2 straight games now since Mayfield has been taken over as a starter. It is clear now for the moment that he has single-handedly turned around the fortunes of this team. But now comes a very strong challenge from a very good Chargers team. It's a very stout defensive front unit, and they are very much loaded offensively as well. But if Cleveland can somehow win this game, then eyeballs will certainly be turning toward the city of Cleveland to say maybe, hey, this is going to be potentially maybe a wild card team. Who knows? What they could be down the line. But if they win this game, it'll be interesting. A lot of obvious starts here for the Chargers. I mean, I like their main weapons, of course. Melvin Gordon at running back is a must start always, regardless of matchup. Same thing goes for Keenan Allen at wide receiver. The 2 main weapons in the offense, you keep going with them. I will say Mike Williams is also not a bad option for you, more so again in PPR leagues, but he does occasionally get a lot of targets, finds the end zone occasionally. So I think you can definitely go with him as well. And again, Austin Eckler, kind of the same way, the backup running back to Melvin Gordon. Again, kind of that pass-catching, third down back out of the backfield. Occasionally makes a big play or two. So again, more so in PPR, but I still think he's a decent play regardless. For the Browns, you're talking about their main weapons now. Carlos Hyde at running back, clearly a starter, clearly doing very, very well in this offense. Nick Chubb kind of taking a back seat. So you keep rolling with Carlos Hyde. Jarvis Landry, obviously the top option at wide receiver. Pretty much the only receiver you can trust right now for the Browns. The other guys like Antonio Callaway, Rashard Higgins aren't doing very much, not getting targeted as much in this offense. So they take a backseat to Landry. And David Njoku is, again, a standard position as tight end is right now with all the injuries across the tight end landscape. If you can get David Njoku like we did, do so now because he is getting a lot of targets from Baker Mayfield. He hasn't found the end zone yet, but I have a feeling he's going to break out really soon and find the end zone at some point. So if you can get David Njoku now, by all means do so. And, of course, the schedule is also very nice for him moving forward. But I'm going to say you can start Baker Mayfield here. It's time to say it. He's entered into the conversation now of at least being a borderline starter. He's developing a solid rapport with this core and making plays. He keeps plays alive. That's the thing that I was really impressed with Baker Mayfield in college at Oklahoma is that he was able to keep plays alive. Well, he's showing that now here in Cleveland. So if you're in need of a bye-week filler, certainly with some QB2 upside, then Baker Mayfield could be your guy this week. For the sits, Phillip Rivers, and as tough as it is to sit him, normally considering how good Phillip Rivers is, the Browns have a really tough defense this year. They actually are one of the strongest in the league, especially against the pass. I think they're a top 10 defense against the pass. So very, very tricky matchup. If you have to play Rivers this week, he's only a high-end QB2, but very much proceed with caution, a very, very risky play. And I mentioned Antonio Callaway. He's become very frustratingly hit and miss. He's just clinging to wide receiver 3 status, but very, very close to kind of falling off the fantasy map. Start him at your own risk, but I would not chance starting Antonio Callaway. Moving on to Buffalo at Houston. Battle here of 2 and 3 teams. Now, the Texans are a bit banged up offensively, but all five, yes, I said five of their main weapons, that being quarterback Deshaun Watson, running back Lamar Miller, and their wide receiver core, DeAndre Hopkins, Will Fuller, and Kiki QT, are expected to all play against Buffalo. In fact, QT's been cleared to play, Fuller's been cleared to play, Hopkins has been cleared to play. The only one, Miller's been cleared to play, the only one that hasn't is Watson. He still is questionable with his chest injury, but I think he is still on track to play. And that's very good news because the Texans' offense seems to be getting back into a rhythm of late, looking very strong, and they're going to need to do that against this Bills defense that can occasionally have its strong moments. Because I really don't expect the Bills' offense, as always, to do much, especially against this very, very stout Texans defense that has done very, very well of late. So the obvious plays here for the Bills, oh yeah, it's still none. It's still none for the Buffalo Bills because, they just don't have anybody very good. For the Texans, though, again, I mentioned Deshaun Watson. He will play, even with the chest. Even though it's questionable, I think he still will play, so he's to play him as normal. DeAndre Hopkins, of course, and the Texans' defense is a plus matchup here. We need a strong defensive unit. But I mentioned again, Will Fuller and Kiki QT. Tre'Davious White, the strong Bills corner, he will likely be on DeAndre Hopkins most of this game because he always covers the top option. Although Hopkins is far too talented to sit, as we saw last week on his ridiculous touchdown instead of the game-winning field goal for Houston. YouTube that if you haven't seen it yet. It'll give Fuller and QT a chance to shine, either a lot of underneath routes or an occasional deep ball shot. Now, again, both are dealing with some hamstring issues, but they've already been cleared to play, so they're good to go for Sunday. Fuller, to me, is a wide receiver 2 or 3 option for you. QT has emerged as a very solid wide receiver 3 or flex. We are starting him this week as well, and both are startable options in this very, very strong offense. You're sitting, again, the Bill, any Bills skill player, you are sitting. Don't be a moron. Don't play a Bills skill player. It has reached a point where, not even LaShawn McCoy is really fantasy relevant at this point. He needs to be really somewhere else. He needs to be in a better team. Now, there were rumors going around after what happened to Jay Ajayi and his season injury in Philadelphia. There were rumors of potentially the Eagles interested in getting McCoy back. So Shady McCoy going back to Philadelphia. That would be a massive upgrade for the Eagles. But for now, sit your Bills or leave them on waivers. And I do mention Lamar Miller only because even if he does play, which he's expected to play, he's only reached double figures one game this season. That was way back in week 1. And the Texans have kind of become more of a passing offense with Watson here. So to me, a very, very risky RB2. But that status is really, really hanging by a thread because Alfred Blue started to get more work of late, and Donta Foreman is scheduled to return next week in week 7 from his Achilles injury. So that backfield's going to get more and more crowded. If Miller can't separate himself now, he might not have another chance this season. So the Lamar Miller fantasy value might quickly be running dry. So I would not recommend playing him right now. Chicago is at Miami. Apparently, the Dolphins were a fluke all along. No pun intended. Tail fluke. They've been exposed the past 2 weeks. They have not looked very good, and now it does not get any easier. One of the best defenses, if not the best in the league, coming to town here in Miami. The running game in Miami is now a clear timeshare disaster. The wide receivers are a mixed bag. Even Kenny Stills at this point is not really worth holding on to in fantasy leagues. And Ryan Tannehill is just not very good. He's just not. We've seen it the past couple weeks now. So the Bears should feast, obviously. But the real question now is this. Is Mitchell Trubisky and his receiving core actually becoming legit fantasy options? That's going to be an item to watch because, yes, Trubisky and them did just carve up Tampa Bay the week before the bye with 6 touchdowns. But is that a blip on the radar or a trend of what's to come? That is going to be a major question going into these weeks, which is why I have Trubisky on our scout team. So it'll be interesting to see what he does going forward.
Yeah.
So the obvious plays here, I mean, it's mostly Bears. In fact, it's all Bears. Jordan Howard at running back. Yes, obviously. Tariq Cohen, running back, again, more so in PPR for that third down back ability, but yes, you play him. The top 2 wide receivers, Allen Robinson, Taylor Gabriel. Yes, I think you can roll them out as at least wide receiver 2 or 3 plays. They're going to get a lot of volume here. Trey Burton at tight end, absolutely. Considering how thin tight end is, Burton gets a share of targets. You keep rolling him out. And, of course, the Bears' defense is a must-play the rest of the season. Now that the bye week's over, you have him and will have him the rest of the year. So set it, forget it, lock, stock, barrel, number 1. There's no obvious Dolphins who can start. Not anymore. I mean, there might have been early in the season, but not anymore. There aren't anymore. I will say, though, Trubisky, if you need quarterback help, is not a bad play. Coming off that great performance against Tampa Bay. Now, the Dolphins secondary, I will say, does present a bit of a stronger challenge, especially with Minkah Fitzpatrick, the rookie cornerback back there, being disruptive. But, if you need help at quarterback, need a bye week filler, not having Stafford or Breeze, or are you playing a 2-quarterback league, then Trubisky, I think, could be your guy. To me, a QB2, but certainly the upside is there going forward with Mitchell Trubisky. The sits are mostly all Dolphins. Ryan Tannehill. You would be absolutely insane, a moron, to start him against the Bears defense. Don't be. I should just keep this sign on standby. Don't be that guy. Don't start him against against the best defense in the NFL. Running backs, no. It has become now a clear timeshare. We thought that Kenyon Drake was going to be the breakout guy after his great year last year, but apparently all the Frank Gore signing did was cloud the situation even more. So it's a real shame, that Drake has fallen this far after his breakout year last year. Avoid that at all costs. Wide receivers, I mentioned again, see Tannehill. Stills is still kind of barely worth using as maybe a dart throw 3 or 4, but that's about it. No one in this receiving core is breaking out. It's very much a mixed bag. Kind of like, well, Halloween's coming up. Kind of like that. You have that mixed bag of Halloween candy, or the bowl of candy just sitting there. That's kind of what it is. Like, oh, here's Albert Wilson, or oh, here's Danny Amendola. He's candy corn. I don't like that. Or what have you. It's a mixed bag. Or there's Kenny Stills. He's maybe Butterfinger, but you get the picture. It's a mixed bag. And Devontae Parker is a bust even when he's healthy. He just doesn't get the work. He's kind of like the worst candy known to man. He's like, it's like, ugh, just no. And then for the Bears, really the only thing I can think of is Anthony Miller. He's kind of the odd man out in the receiving core. He's just not getting as many targets as the Bears' other weapons there. Just more of a wide receiver 4 or more of a flex play if you are very, very desperate. Arizona has to make kind of almost a cross-country trip on Sunday. They have to go to Minnesota. That is not going to be an easy task. And I'll say this again, I'm happy for Josh Rosen. I'm happy for him. I'm thrilled the Cardinals finally came around and they were no longer a moron and made him their starter, keeping Sam Bradford on the bench where he belongs. And I'm glad they finally got a win last week, beat San Francisco. But let's be real. They're not going to contend in the NFC West this year. What's that? The Rams are too good. Seattle's good. They're not going to contend unless Rosen gets a lot more from his receiving core and his other weapons. David Johnson can't do it by himself, nor can whatever is left of Larry Fitzgerald, which actually isn't much. You're going on the road, a loaded Minnesota team, well-balanced offensively and defensively. To me, that's just too tall an order for Josh Rosen. I don't think it's going to be a great week for the Cardinals. The only Cardinal you can rely on right now in fantasy is David Johnson, the running back. He's still putting up solid numbers, so he's really the only one that you can trust right now from a fantasy perspective. For the Vikes, there's a lot of guys you can trust. Kirk Cousins, obviously. The top receivers of Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs, of course, are locked in as solid receivers. Dalvin Cook, as long as he plays, he is still battling that hamstring issue. But as long as he plays, I think you can put Dalvin Cook out there in your lineup and he'll post some very solid numbers for you. Kyle Rudolph, of course, one of the more solid tight ends in the NFL. You keep rolling with him. And, of course, the Vikings defense and of course, this amazing matchup. No one else of note really to put on the start list. As for the sits, again, I mentioned Rosen, not against this defense, not on the road, just too tough, too tall in order. The Cardinals wide receivers, I mean, now Christian Kirk, he's probably someone you can scout. He has been getting a lot of targets lately. He did have a big touchdown last week. But don't fall for that. Don't go chasing points just yet on that. And like I said last week, Larry Fitzgerald, is being held back by either his age or the offense or what have you. His days are gone. Battling a hamstring problem, so keep him reserved. And okay. I put Cook on here twice. I don't know why. I like Cook. I don't know why I have him on here twice. All right, ignore that board. That was my foobar.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know why I put him on there twice. I have him on the sit list, and I shouldn't because he's clear to play. I don't think he'll be limited. So no, that was my mistake. Whoopsies. But no, Dalvin Cook to me, I think will be fine. I don't think he'll be on snap count. I think he'll still be okay. I don't think you have to worry about Dalvin Cook. All right, Colts at the Jets. You do need to worry about the Colts offense. Defensively, the Colts are just one of the most banged up teams in the league right now. We were watching, of course, the game last week, and they were dropping like flies. It was just hard to watch. T.Y. Hilton has already been ruled out with that nagging hamstring again. Jack Doyle's already been ruled out again because of his hip issue. Now, Eric Ebron did practice today. He was dealing with a myriad of injuries like a shin, a quad, ankle, knee, like everything. But he practiced today, so he's on target to at least play. And the Colts do get Marlon Mack back. Yay. Yeah, so we'll see how that goes down the road. He's still not getting 1,500 yards, Jimmy Irsay. It's still not going to happen. This isn't from the shaver. This is from just needing a haircut. It's not going to happen. Andrew Luck is bottom line. Andrew Luck is going to need a number of miracles to get past Sam Darnold and company on the road. This is not going to be an easy task. The Jets tend to feast on poor defenses, and the Colts are definitely one of them. Let's not kid ourselves. So play any Colts at your own risk. The only two I can even think of considering playing, maybe for sure anyway. Andrew Luck, of course, because he's gonna have to throw the football. Andrew Luck has thrown the ball a lot this season, but that's because the Colts defense has made him do it. Like he has to. The Colts have been down in games and he has to throw the ball. So he's solid volume play alone. So Andrew Luck is fine. And of course Eric Ebron. If he's cleared to play, then put him in there. Tight end 1. He's been the guy all season long. For the Jets, I think you can go with their strong weapons, the 1-2 tandem in the backfield. Bilal Powell at running back is going to have, I think, a great game. And Isaiah Crowell, again, more so PPR, as long as he plays. He's dealing with a bit of an ankle injury, but as long as he goes, he can break out at any time. As we saw a couple weeks ago, he had like over 200 yards from scrimmage. So get him in there as long as he plays. Quincy Enunwa, the top receiving option there as well. And, of course, the Jets' defense. I think is a solid streaming option this week because, again, the Colts just don't have a whole lot right now on offense. Sam Darnold, if you need a quarterback again this week, it's been positive. Sam Darnold does very well against bad defenses. We saw it in week 1 against the Lions when he just carved them up. And at this point, the Colts defense, let's be honest, couldn't stop a nosebleed. It's that bad. Darnold is an excellent bye-week filler. To me, a solid 2 quarterback league play this week. High-end QB2, serious upside. I like Sam Darnold this week. The running backs, though, for the Colts, they're not bad options, but it looks like we have maybe winners here in the back sweepstakes with Marlon Mack and Nyheim Hines. It looks like they're going to emerge. Mack is back from this injured hamstring. He's going to take on this workhorse role, leading the backs. Hines is going to be the third down passing back guy, and he's been featured in that role for a couple weeks now. So moving forward, they have at least RB2 value or appeal, but I think Hines is a stronger player in PPR because of that catching ability. But we'll see. We'll see what they do. But if you need, again, help at running back this week, needing a last-minute RB2 player flex, I think either Mack or Hines could at least be decent for you this week. Same with the receivers. T.Y. Hilton is out with that hamstring. So who steps up? Well, Ryan Grant and Chester Rogers. These two have gotten a lot of targets in Hilton's absence. And I think both guys make for right now for strong wide receiver 2 or 3 plays. They've both done a lot with their targets. They usually find a touchdown or 2. So especially how Luck has had to throw the ball this year, these guys make for solid plays. And so we've got Grant on our bench as a stash to see how he pans out going forward. So either way, could be a good option for you. The only sit, of course, is T.Y. Hilton. Already been ruled out. And Jack Doyle. So both of their injuries. We got a 1 o'clock game in London.
Which is like 5 o'clock here.
Well,
5 o'clock
their time.
Or something.
Yeah. 1 o'clock here, 5 o'clock. I think 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock their time. So it'll be near nighttime over in London. Yeah, when they play. So Seattle and Oakland. Oh goody. England gets another game with 2 below 500 teams in it. Seattle at 2 and 3, Oakland at 1 and 4. I mean, what is it with London getting these bad games? Like, I don't get how London always gets screwed with the bad teams.
I don't know.
Well, it might not be so bad, though, if Russell Wilson and company can really go off against this very suspect Raiders defensive unit. Hopefully that might happen. And the running game finally also looks in order for Seattle as well, as they've established Chris Carson and Mike Davis as their 1-2 punch there. Now, the only Raiders storyline worth noting is, Marshawn Lynch gets to face his former team for the first time. Maybe he'll finally get a carry on the 1-yard line.
Oh.
You realize how much that has happened?
Yes.
I don't know if you saw the statistic that someone posted on Twitter. 4 instances where they've been on the 1-yard line with Marshawn Lynch, and they've all thrown. 0 for 4 with 2 interceptions.
Mm-hmm.
Give the ball to Marshawn. Feed him Skittles. Do something. You've got one of the toughest running backs in the league. Give it to him. So who knows? We'll see what happens. Should be interesting. Obvious plays here for the Hawks. Lot to like. Russell Wilson, obviously. He makes plays through the air. He makes plays with his legs. And against this defense, Russell Wilson's a lock. You got to play him. The running backs, of course, also. Chris Carson is going to carry the load. Mike Davis, the catching down, a third down catching back, I should say. Again, more so in PPR, but you roll out him as well. Doug Baldwin, the top receiving option, absolutely. As long as he remains healthy, you keep rolling him out. And, of course, the Seahawks defense against this very suspect Raider offense, you roll them out as well. For the Raiders, you can play a couple of their weapons here. Of course, you got to go beast mode. You got to keep rolling with him. I think he's going to have that motivation to do well against his former team. So you got to put him out there. Same with the receiver core. Jordy Nelson, Amari Cooper, the top 2 weapons there for Derek Carr. I think are going to have potential to have some strong games. The secondary, of course, not what it used to be, so it can be exploited. So you go with them. And Jared Cook, again, kind of had an off week last week, but that was more attributed to game flow. I think he's still one of the top-tier tight ends in the league, especially this, again, as decimated his position is, you keep going with Jared Cook. But I will mention another name for the Seahawks, Tyler Lockett. Quietly, even though Baldwin is back to being at full health, Lockett's finding the end zone. He's emerged as a go-to target for Russell Wilson. I made mention of our opponent last week. Oxo had Lockett on his bench and scored a touchdown. And had he not put him in, we would have been screwed.
Yeah.
So, he's finding the targets and finding the end zone. He definitely has wide receiver 2 appeal here. So start Tyler Lockett if you got him. I think he could have another potential big week this week.
Had he put him in, brother, you think? You said had he put him in, we would have. Had he not put him in, we would have been screwed or something.
Well, yeah, because we only won by 8, and he had 10 points. So did they switch him out? Could have been screwed. Sits though, Derek Carr. Seahawks defense has played better of late. They're going to be hungry to impress. There's a lot of Seahawks fans over in England, so they're going to be able to impress. For me, Carr not a recommended play this week because of this matchup. And David Moore, and I know a lot of people are going crazy about David Moore from the Seahawks last week, had 2 touchdowns. Not quite ready to put all the chips in on Moore just yet. You know, don't want to be chasing points yet again until it becomes a trend and not a blip on the radar. So keep him scouted for sure, but don't put him in your lineups just yet. Carolina is at Washington, also 1 o'clock on Sunday, you know, and maybe the Colts aren't the most banged up. Maybe Washington could also make a serious case for that title because their offense also feels like a very full training room at this point of players. Both running backs are hurt. Adrian Peterson, Chris Thompson, they may or may not go. The receiving core is all dealing with an ailment of some type. So really, your only healthy parts of your offense right now are quarterback Alex Smith and tight end Jordan Reed. Yikes. Good luck with that against a very loaded Panthers team that will look to continue to hold their lead in the NFC South. So for the Panthers, the guys you're starting, of course, Cam Newton, duh. I mean, he's lock stock every single week. You roll him out always because the plays he can make. Christian McCaffrey, of course, at running back, yes, green light on him. You keep rolling him out. Devin Funchess, the top wide receiver. And the Panthers defense, I think, could be a really nice streaming option for you this week if you're in a pinch, like if you're, if your D's on bye or if you need help at DST. I think the Panthers could be a real sneaky play this week as well. For Washington, though, Adrian Peterson, as long as he plays, NFL Network was just saying, I don't know if you heard it, but Peterson last week, he said he dislocated his shoulder and he popped it back in during the game. Ow. Yeah, so not cool. So that's a big question mark. So if he goes, you play him, but I worry about that a little bit. Same thing with Chris Thompson. As long as he plays, he's doing a bit of a rib injury, but as long as he goes, then you play him as normal. More so, again, PPR being that third down back, but as long as he plays, you play him as normal. And again, Jordan Reed, he's healthy at tight end, one of the only healthy spots in this offense, so you keep rolling him out as well. No one else to know really to start here. The sits are, all Washington guys. Alex Smith, again, only really one healthy weapon against this Panthers defense. No thanks. I think you can really find a much better option out there than him. Same again, I mentioned the Washington receiving core. Jamison Crowder, Paul Richardson, Josh Doxson, they're all dealing with some sort of ailment. I think it's Doxson's heel. I think it's Crowder's, thigh or groin, something like that. So even if they play, I wouldn't trust them. Tough matchup, even though it's at home. And besides, they've really all been painfully inconsistent this year. Crowder's the safest bet, but really only as a very, very risky wide receiver 3. Afternoon games. Starting with the Rams trying to keep their perfect season on the line, but they have to play in the mile-high air at Denver. Now, there's a bit of uncertainty hanging over the Rams. 2 of Jared Goff's biggest weapons, Brandin Cooks and Cooper Kupp, had concussions last week. But both practiced today, so both seem to be on target to play. They're supposed to be out of the protocol tomorrow, so that'll be good news for Jared Goff and company. And against a decent Denver secondary, that is very huge. Now, playing and winning in Denver is certainly no easy task, but in order for the Broncos to have any chance in this game, Case Keenum is going to need all hands on deck. He's going to need his top weapons to step up and perform at a very top-notch level. So giddy up, Broncos. You are going to need it in order to win this game. But I like a lot of players in this game. In fact, there's hardly anyone there that I really don't like, except for one, which I'll mention. But obvious guys, of course, Jared Goff for the Rams, Todd Gurley, Cooper Kupp, Brandin Cooks. As long as they play and they're out of concussion protocol, you play them. And Robert Woods, the other wide receiver, and, of course, the Rams defense, which has been solid all year as well. For the Broncos, their main weapons, you keep rolling them out. Phillip Lindsay, their main running back, you keep rolling him out. Royce Freeman, more so in PPR because, again, he's kind of taking on the third down or goal line back role, but you keep rolling him out, hoping he can find the end zone. And, of course, the 2 top weapons in Emmanuel Sanders and Demaryius Thomas. You keep rolling them out as well, especially at home. The only guy I can think of here sitting is Case Keenum. I know that's tough, but I know he's at home. I know he's got a ton of weapons, but I worry about that Rams defense. Even though they're playing in Denver, I worry about it, especially if the secondary gets back healthy this week with Aqib Talib and Marcus Peters. I worry about that a bit. To me, Keenum is a high-end QB2, but I'd only recommend him in the deepest of 2 quarterback leagues if you're desperate. I just worry, again, about the matchup more so than anything. But I like a lot of the players in that game. Going from a game I like to really a game I don't, the 425 game with Jacksonville and Dallas. Wah, wah. This is the game of the WEAK. Don't be a moron. I'm expecting a low-scoring game in this game. Stout defenses. The offenses are really not that great, aside from a few playmakers. There's really not much to say on this one. There's only a few obvious starts that I like here. For the Jags, it's TJ Yeldon at running back. As long as Leonard Fournette is out, he's going to lead the backfield so that you can play him and Jacksonville's defense, obviously, as you keep rolling with them.
For once, a game in Atlanta is not. With Atlanta is not the game of the week.
Yeah, right? Yeah, because they're playing a good – because they have a good offense, and Tampa's got a good offense, and they're 2 bad defenses. That's gonna be a shootout. This, not so much. For the Cowboys, Zeke Elliott is again the engine that drives the bus. He's the one that makes it go. So you play him and the Cowboys defense because again, I think it's gonna be a really low-scoring game. Yes. So no other starts to note. There's none. Don't be a moron. This is gonna be, I think, the ugliest game of the week. If you're in Vegas, take the under. I mean, this is going to be, the thing. Oh, speaking of Vegas, did we tell them about the little wager that we had?
Yeah, that I lost.
Yeah, we had a little fun with the what was it? The Colts game, the Colts Patriots game Thursday night a couple nights ago, and last Thursday's game, and the point total was was it 50, and Nate took the Patriots in the under, and I took the Patriots in the over, and the wager was that whoever won, if Nate won it, I had to foot the entire bill for the hotel for Winnie City myself.
Yeah. And
if I won, which I did end up winning, by the way, I would still handle the payment, which I did book the hotel, by the way. I did book it, but you still have to pay me, you guys, for your half. So
yeah.
So I won.
Hopefully I'll hear something about my job. Hopefully.
Right.
I'm hoping.
But the rest of the guys are sits. Blake Bortles, the secondary for Dallas is a strong challenge. And even though Bortles is a decent receiving core, which is better than Dallas's, I would not trust him as anything more than a very, very risky QB2. Not even a bye-week filler. I would not chance him. Same with Dak Prescott. He's quickly faded into fantasy oblivion. We're almost to the point where we don't even need to tell you to sit him anymore. You're not playing him, especially against this solid defense. Leonard Fournette, out with a hamstring. He's already ruled out. He's not playing. Jamal Charles. I don't know if I told you that Jamal Charles signed with Jacksonville. So he is back. The former Kansas City Chief. And until we really see, because Corey Grant, of course, is on IR and done for the year with that foot injury, so that's why they had to sign Charles. But until we really see what role he's going to play, he's very, very risky. For now, more of a desperate flex option until we see what he does. But for now, I would not play him yet. Then Jaguars wideouts. This is really starting to turn to kind of a serious headache. Take your leave. This is starting to turn into a real problem. Between Keelan Cole, Dede Westbrook, and Dante Moncrief, you don't know which one of them is going to go off each week. They're just canceling each other's value, and it's very risky. There's nothing but flex plays at this point until a very consistent threat emerges, which unfortunately it might be never. So keep that in mind. And the Cowboys wide receivers. Hey class, can you spell scrubs? Yeah, I thought you could. Yeah, because they're all pretty bad. Just in case you need a reminder. Alan Hearns, Cole Beasley, Michael Gallup. Yeah, no number one there. Why did you get rid of Des Bryant again? Why is Des Bryant still unsigned?
Yeah, I don't know.
He keeps saying every single week, I'm going to sign soon. I'm going to sign soon. Stay tuned for news. I'm going to sign soon. And nothing. So stay tuned for more on Dez Bryant. Stay tuned for more on Dez Bryant. I had to use the sign there for a funny. Baltimore is at Tennessee on Sunday, 4:25. Just when I thought the Titans were legit, just when I was starting to drink the light blue Kool-Aid joke that I made last week, they went out and lost to Buffalo.
Okay.
Oh, Titans. What are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing losing to Buffalo? That never makes you legit. That never makes you legit. That never happens. Now I got to toss the light blue Kool-Aid out the window, you know? Out the window, splatter onto the highway, you know? If I was a moron, you know, apparently. And now they face a Ravens team that's very strong defensively, but also has a lot more weapons than the Titans do offensively. So this one is either going to be a very ugly slugfest or a wild shootout where just both teams kind of go bonkers. I'm leaning more toward the former, though. I think it's going to be kind of ugly. Ugly.
A wild, ugly shootout.
A wild, ugly shootout?
Yeah.
Or just ugly in general. Mm-hmm. Not a whole lot to like in the obvious. Only a couple options here. For the Ravens, the receiving core, these guys are too good to sit. John Brown, Michael Crabtree, they've been consistent for Joe Flacco all year. They're too good to sit. I think even in this matchup, they're still going to get a fair share of targets. So you roll them out and you play them as you normally would. And the Ravens defense, of course, always a very strong play. You go with them as well. Titans, really only their two top options here. Corey Davis again at wide receiver, who has emerged as the top option there in the receiving core. You keep rolling out him. And Deion Lewis, the top running back. I think you keep going with him as well. I'm also going to say, though, the Ravens running backs, I think you can start them here as well. I feel like these two are going to get a ton of work in this game because of how tough the passing matchup is. Now, yes, Collins is starting to lose some goal line work to Buck Allen, but don't give up the ship on Collins just yet. There really honestly isn't a better back on the wire right now that has the value that Collins does. There really isn't. So to me, for now, Collins still a rock-solid RB2. Allen more so an RB3 or a flex, but still a better play in PPR leagues because he gets the third down work as well, the passing back work. So you can roll out both of them and be confident. Sits, Joe Flacco. This is a tough matchup for him. The Titans are top 10 against the pass, so not a good matchup. Now, Flacco's schedule is going to get easier on down the line, but I wouldn't use him here. It's just we to get cute and use him. You can find a better option this week like we are with Jameis Winston. Willie Snead, Snead has not scored more than 6 fantasy points all year this year. He's really the fourth wheel in this loaded offense, and that's never a good place to be. Each week.
6 a week.
He has not had more than 6 a week. Yeah. He's gotten targets, but he has not done much with them. So that's never a good place to be, so can't trust him yet. Marcus Mariota, can't trust putting him out there against a very difficult defense. Plus, having that lack of weapons does not help his cause, so don't like him this week. And again, Derrick Henry, wanted to say his name for much longer, but really he's faded into fantasy oblivion at this point as well. Big game on Sunday Night Football. The kid against the GOAT. Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes against New England and Tom Brady and company in Foxborough. It is always fun when these two get together. I feel like it's kind of becoming, in somewhat ways, a new rivalry, like a little bit. Not full on, but at least a little bit. Remember the last time the Chiefs came to Foxborough? Oh, yeah, and Alex Smith and his weapons and that defense carved up the pathetic Patriots secondary, and the defense frustrated Tom Brady and pressured him and forced him into mistakes. Now, I don't expect that happen this time because the Kansas City defense is not what it was. It is one of the more weaker units in the NFL this year. In fact, I still think it's the weakest in the league statistically. The bottom line, though, is this. In this game, you are not sitting any of your studs. This could be also a very much a shootout game. In fact, I think the over-under on this game is 57.5, I think. Mm-hmm. It's some high number. I think Tampa Atlanta's like 54 and KC New England's like 57.5. So The defense is going to way too much to consider it. Reap the fantasy rewards in this game. So your obvious starts, you're
taking the line over or under. What are you taking?
I would say in Tampa, Atlanta, I would say over. If you give me 54, I think that's going to be over. Now, Kansas City, New England, 57.5. In New England, though, I don't think it's going to make it that high. I think that could be under. Maybe barely under, but I don't think they're going to get over 57.5. I don't think. So for the Chiefs, though, you're starting your main weapons. Patrick Mahomes, Kareem Hunt at running back, Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins back to full health after the hamstring issue, and Travis Kelce. They're 5 main guys. You roll them out, period. Patriots, same thing. Their main 6. Tom Brady, Sony Michel, James White, again, more so in PPR, but also still their 1-2 punch at running back. Rob Gronkowski at tight end. Julian Edelman back to being the top weapon. And Josh Gordon. Now, still got the hamstring issue, but it looks like he's on track to play. As long as he does, you roll out Josh Gordon. He had a touchdown last week in his first game in New England, so he's clearly making a very big impact. So no one really else of note to start. The only guys I can mention here to sit are the Patriots receivers that have kind of faded into the background, and that's Phillip Dorsett and Chris Hogan. They've kind of become the forgotten receivers in light of Edelman coming back from suspension and Gordon signing, kind of like what we expected to. They have now faded back. They can be left on waivers moving forward. And finally, the Monday Nighter. San Francisco is at Green Bay. And the biggest question mark surrounding the Packers this week is the health of their receiving core. If Randall Cobb and Geronimo Allison are both out this week, they're both dealing with hamstring injuries, then Devontae Adams and Marquez Valdes-Scantling, they'll become immediate fantasy starters, though Adams already was, but Valdes-Scantling will get, again, an increased role like you saw last week. And Jimmy Graham, the tight end, might also benefit as long as he plays, dealing with a bit of a knee issue, but as long as he plays, he'll be good to go. Now, the running back situation for Green Bay is still a bit of a concern there, but, for now, this should be best avoided for the most part, but there's still one guy I like out of that group. For the most part, it's still kind of cloudy. For the Niners, biggest question, does Matt Breida play at running back? That ankle, now, he was seen in practice yesterday without a limp. He had both ankles wrapped, so there might be possibly that he might play in the end. It downgrades Alfred Morris a bit. They haven't ruled him out yet, so who knows? So it's still a big question mark. And come Monday, Alfred Morris may or may not have fantasy value if Breida's active. So monitor that, keep that in mind going forward. The only Niner I can think of it's an obvious play is George Kittle. As long as he plays, he is also dealing with a bit of a knee issue, but of course he's developed a nice rapport with his former college teammate C.J. Beathard. So as long as he's a go, then you play him. For the Packers, Aaron Rodgers, obviously, you roll him out. Devontae Adams, yes. Geronimo Allison, again, as long as he clears concussion protocol, you play him. He's now the number 2 receiver there in Green Bay. You roll him out as well. And, of course, Jimmy Graham, as long as he plays. But I'll say Aaron Jones, I'm hoping. I'm hoping this is the week for Aaron Jones. Hopefully this is the week that he takes control of this backfield and separates himself from Jamal Williams, from Ty Montgomery. Someone has to take control. And call me crazy, but I'm going to say this is the week. I'm going to say it happens this week. I'll go even further and say that Aaron Jones scores a touchdown this week. I'm going to say it happens. I'm confident. I'm bullish on Aaron Jones. I think this is the week. What?
Oh, I'm just thinking.
You're thinking. He needs to be better than Jamal Williams. He needs to be better than Ty Montgomery. He needs to push those two out of your picture, out of the video, out of the screen. He needs to push them away and be the guy. For now, an RB2, but I feel that upside for Aaron Jones is right around the corner. Sits C.J. Beathard for the Niners. Beathard has shown that he can lead this offense, but most of his weapons outside of Kittle are dealing with injuries. So, to me, he's not even a QB2 at this point. And again, I mentioned Randall Cobb. The hamstring continues to plague him, and at this point, he's already been leapfrogging the depth chart to me by Geronimo Allison and maybe soon by Valdes-Scantling. So for now, keep Randall Cobb benched or on your waiver wire. All right, guys, that is going to do it for this week. So thank you guys for tuning in. Sorry again on the short notice on being a Friday show instead of earlier in the week, but the schedule was crazy and all that. So thank you guys again for tuning in. Thank you so much for viewing, subscribing. You guys rock. You know that. Again, if you have any questions about your lineups at all, any struggle, feel free to hit up the comment box below, and we'll try to get to them as soon as we can. Good luck in Week 6. Go out there and get a win. So, for Apple Dash, Nate Henninger, I'm Spiky Dash, signing off for the night. God bless.